We can debate about whether or not the left loves abortion, but there's no question they love the politics of abortion. The court in Florida, Supreme Court, said that the 6-week ban on abortion is allowed, but they also said that there's going to be a proposition on the ballot in November to increase abortion to 24 weeks. So the people of Florida get to decide, you want a 6-week ban on abortion or a 24-week ban. Now, the politics of this is that Republicans have a 900,000 voter registration advantage over Democrats. Florida is no longer a swing state, but now with abortion on the ballot, will that be enough for Democrats to get off the couch to vote for abortion? Oh, and while they're there, I might as well vote for Biden as well. The Democrats want abortion on the ballot in every swing state. They think that abortion is a winning issue for them. And unfortunately, they might be right. At least for now. Today's special is about the politics of abortion. I'm grateful you're here. I want to talk about what this special is not, briefly. This special is not about abortion itself. My single issue is abortion. I'm as pro-life as they come, and I'm happy to have that conversation all day long, and we've had it here many times before. We should talk about abortion. We should talk about it from every side, every angle imaginable. I don't think there's a greater issue in our country. How could there possibly be a greater issue in our country than the killing of 1 million babies every single year, which, by the way, is going up because of the increase in chemical abortions inside of states. Even states like Texas that ban abortion, you can send a pill in and a woman can have a chemical abortion. Now 62% of all abortions. But that's not what this special is about. This special is about the politics of this issue, the whirlwind, as Chuck Schumer said. I, again, pro-life, I travel the country speaking at pro-life pregnancy centers. I, Mike Slater, recognize that right now in this country, abortion, pro-life, I should say, politically is a losing issue. Does that make sense? And I look forward to talking to our guest today and we can really talk this out. But I think that's an accurate assessment of the current state of our political movement. Maybe that doesn't best reflect the actual sentiment of our country, but politically, like winning ballot referendums, voting for certain candidates, abortion seems to be a loser right now. And I lament that deeply, but I think that's where we are right now. If I can liken this politically to slavery, because abortion and slavery are nearly a one-to-one comparison, right? Neither the slave nor the fetus is a person. They have no rights. Let's let the states decide. It's a very similar issue. I think right now we're in the President Thomas Jefferson stage, 1806, when Jefferson told Congress, hey guys, we got to stop the slave trade. And that's part of an address he gave to Congress, right? We got to stop this slave trade into America. Now, just a little reference sake, there were 12 million slaves that were shipped out of Africa to the New World. Only about 400,000 of them went to America. And there were another 12 million that were shipped from Africa to the Middle East. No one ever talks about those. But 400,000 into America. So Thomas Jefferson, first order of business, let's stop the flow of new slaves into America. And that's great. Obviously, you got to do it. In some ways, though, a bit of a kick in the can down the road for 53 years until this was finally settled with the war. And there were other things in between then, of course, further kicks of that can. But I think that's where we're at with abortion right now, right? It's like, hey, let's get rid of Roe v. Wade, which would be the international slave trade in this analogy, but let's leave it up to the states. And like, that's good. Right? It's like, let's end the international slave trade, but we're going to leave it up to the states still. It's like, okay, that's good. But some states are like, great, let's increase abortion to 40 weeks. When I lived in California in 2022, the people voted on that. It was Prop 1. And it passed by a lot, 67 to 33. Yeah, the people of California, they really want abortion to be allowed to 40 weeks. But even red states, I should say some red states have been, like Texas, are like no abortion allowed at all. And then there's a lot of in between. I should say it like that. You got the blue states who are like full on 40 weeks. You got most of the red states who are like 0 abortion or 6 weeks or something like that. And then you get a bunch of other states in between. But even, and this is kind of the point of this special, even in a state like Ohio, which is a red state by quite a bit, in 2023, November 2023, a yes would, see, this is why this is a confusing one. A yes allows abortion. And 56% of people voted for it in Ohio. And we could talk about how it was a confusing ballot name and a yes meant a no and the deceptive advertising and the money and all that stuff. But if there was a mass movement against abortion in America, no one would have been tricked by a misleading ballot title. You know what I mean? Everyone, right? Like the people who are for abortion, they are rabid about it. And I think they're winning right now. The goal of the pro-life movement needs to be to make sure that, or to get to the point where no one would even fathom having an abortion. It's like, well, of course you would outlaw it. We're not there yet. And the Democrats know that. And they're pushing abortion hard to win votes. So I want to be clear on this again. Pro-life Mike Slater, I lament this reality. I wish it weren't so. And I look forward to our guest today maybe telling me it's not so and giving their best argument. But I don't want this to discourage you. Even if we're not where, if you're pro-life like me, even if we're not where we want to be, let's not be discouraged by this. But I also don't want to, we can't be ignorant of the reality, and we got to take the temperature of the room, find out what we're doing here. I think of the red wave that did not happen in 2022. Every single president in their midterm election loses a ton of seats in the House. The other party, or their party, loses a ton of seats. Barack Obama lost 65 seats. Republicans won 65 seats against Obama. That's how I put it, right? They flipped 65 seats against Obama. And in 2022, we were expecting an even bigger red wave, but Republicans only gained 9. And Democrats picked up a senator in Pennsylvania, and Democrats picked up 2 governor seats. Like, what the heck? There were 6 states that had propositions to preserve or expand abortion, and they all won. California, Vermont, but also Montana, Michigan, Kentucky, Kansas. Pro-life lost in Kansas. And you're like, well, what in the world? Well, the timing. The election was November 2022. Roe v. Wade was overturned in June of 2022. So people were still very up in arms in this. And the Democrats got a huge advantage. Can they still get an advantage in 2024 like they did in 2022? So again, we're talking about this politically. I don't want anyone confused. Oh, Slater's pro-choice. Like, no. We need to do everything we can to win the hearts and minds on this issue. But we have to realize where we are and proceed wisely. Which leads us to Donald Trump. Here's what Donald Trump is saying about abortion. This is his stance on this. And he got a lot of heat from this, from pro-lifers. He was on Meet the Press. This is about 5 minutes into this conversation. Here it is.
I think both sides are going to like me.
What's
going to have to happen is you're going to have to,
listen,
you're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy. Because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
Are you
weeks?
talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks?
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I
goes
think
too
what he
far?
did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. But we'll come up with a number. But at the same time, Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion.
Okay. Trump is all about finding a number somewhere in the middle as a federal ban, and then states can go lower than that if they want. I think that sounds pretty good. Listen, if it were up to me, no abortion anywhere ever. But it's a big country. And we're not there yet. Remember, I think we got to take what we can get. Right? In Florida, you get 5 weeks. That's great. In California, they're 40. But if we have a federal stance on this, the federal government would say, all right, you can't go above 15 or whatever it is. Right? We got to get this number lower than 40. Let's agree on that. And then we can move the ball even forward. Democrats are really good at incrementalization. Right? You give them an inch, they'll take a mile, but they do it slowly. the frog in the boiling water whole thing. We need to do the same thing, but in the other direction. I say we get a 15-week ban, and then we go for 13, and we go for 10, then 5. And eventually we get to the point where it would be unthinkable. We don't even need a law anyway. No one would ever do it. Just like no one would own a slave, even if it was legalized tomorrow. But we got to get moving in that direction. So politically, I think Trump has the right stance on this, just knowing the temperature of the room. I think that's the best approach right now. Here's Donald Trump's advice to Republicans.
They want a number. There is a number, and there's a number that's going to be agreed to. And Republicans should go out and say the following, because I think the Republicans speak very inarticulately about this subject. I watched some of them without the exceptions, et cetera, et cetera. I said, other than certain parts of the country, you're not going to win on this issue, but you will win on this issue when you come up with the right number of weeks, because Democrats don't want to be radical on the issue. Most of them, some do. They don't want to be radical on the issue. They don't want to kill a baby in the 7th month or the 9th month or after birth. And they're allowed to do that, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that calculus is right. It's pretty wild, actually. The left says that Trump is so extreme on everything. Trump's actually extremely moderate on many issues. The left thinks it's amazing that anyone would vote for such an extremist. But what's more accurate is it's fascinating that an extremist like me on abortion would still vote for Trump the moderate. Because on abortion, he's very moderate. And I think right now in 2024, I think that's the winning ticket as long as we're moving and still in that pro-life direction.